Dadhood. Modern Dadhood Podcast.
Adam Flaherty, good to see you. I'm glad you're up. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend.
2026.
Happy New Year. This is Modern Dadhood. I want to come right out of the gate with an apology in advance for two things. One is my voice, because I've been ill for a number of days and back now, feeling a lot better, but my voice is still struggling a little bit.
I think you sounds
a bit like a Triscuit.
I think you sound great. I mean, I'm honestly, if I'm being honest, I kind of have the same thing going on. I was not nearly as sick as you, but definitely got a little. You can hear it right now.
Okay.
A little something in the back of the throat.
Apology in advance number 2 is that my kids are home and they're buzzing around, and so if things get a little loud, well, sorry.
Everyone's just going to have to deal with it. I mean, same. My kids are currently occupied playing Minecraft together, but that usually ends in kind of a knockdown, drag-out fight.
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
This is Modern Dadhood, an ongoing conversation about the joys, the challenges, and the general insanity of being a dad in this moment. And my name's Adam Flaherty. I'm a dad of 2 daughters who, in a matter of weeks, are going to be 12 and 9.
Wow, 12. My name is Marc. Check it. A little slow on the uptake here today. I have 2 children. They're both boys. They are going to be 8 years old in a little over a month. And God, they're such boys. You know, we got Christmas gifts all over the house right now still. A lot of new things, including Nerf guns, which is fine, I guess. And also some Hulk fists, like wearable Hulk fists.
Nice. Yeah. You got unboxing gloves.
It was a really smart decision. Thank you, Santa. And this is what was happening earlier. Like just after breakfast, I'm still sitting at the breakfast table, and one kid is standing on this side of the house. The other kid's standing on this side of the house. This kid over here has the Nerf gun. This kid over here has the boxing gloves, and their idea is you shoot at me and I will punch the Nerf bullet in midair with the gloves, which initially I was like, boy, that's dangerous. And then within minutes, I found myself joining in because it was a hell of a lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was hard. Doing both things were hard. It was hard to aim. It was also really hard to punch one of those things out of midair. They go fast. Also, we have these ones that have like hard plastic tips, which I chipped one of the walls in the house with it.
Ooh.
So let that be a warning to all of you parents out there that have Nerf guns. Like, some of those bullets are not messing around. This episode's brought to you by Nerf.
I suppose we should move into our episode here, which is a special one, right? It's a little bit of like maybe a recap episode, but it's you and I, Marc, have gone back through the original episodes of 2025, and we've selected what we're calling some moments of profundity. We've had some amazing guests who shared some profound things, and we wanted to reflect on that a little bit. And then we're going to link to those episodes in the show notes so that you listeners can very easily find them if you choose.
As you were going back through the catalog, which I know you did very diligently, was there any episodes that sort of stuck out to you as like, oh, yeah, damn, that was a great conversation. There's a lot packed into that.
Well, probably the one that comes to mind right away. Actually, I do need to shout out to our most recent episode with Dr. Alvin Thomas. I think that was a really great episode overall. He was a joy to talk to, and it's just packed with so much great information. But thinking about the whole year, hanging with Nick Hexum and just how generous he was. So generous with his time and so open about his fatherhood experience. That was a really special one for me. How about you?
A serious treat. I, again, found myself listening to the whole episode that with Kirk Martin.
Yeah, Kirk Martin from the Calm Parenting podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and even though I wasn't a part of that interview, I think I was on vacation at the time, but he just, everything he was saying was like, that's me. Yep. That's my situation. You know, everything he said just kind of spoke really directly to me. So I really enjoyed that episode again. Well, how do we do this?
Let's just say quickly, let's remind listeners that moderndadhood.com, that's where you can find all episodes and links out to all of our social media. You can sign up for our email list. You can reach out to us. You can purchase yourself a dad hoodie or a Modern Dadhood t-shirt. But also, if you're liking the show, or if whether you've been listening for a long time or this is maybe even the first time, if you would be so kind as to not only subscribe, but leave us a review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you're listening, that will help us to, helps validate the show to other people who are looking for new podcasts. And probably even more importantly than that, will you just tell a friend about Modern Dadhood, share this episode with somebody that you care about, and let them know that this podcast is something that you find value in and entertainment in.
Prepare to be value-tained. Do you know that guy?
There we go.
Do you know that guy?
No, but I do. I want to.
No, you don't. Well, listen. Why don't we get into it? Why don't we get into the episodes? You've picked 3. I've picked 3.
Why don't you go first?
Why don't you roll a sting? Why don't you roll a sting for me? My first pick came from episode 122, which, as you well know, is our chat with Soren Paulson. Mm-hmm. Quick 411 on who he is. He and his wife have created an organization called Raising Digital Citizens. The mission there is to help parents and their kids manage their screen time and navigate the online world and social media and do all that kind of stuff safely with your kids. He helped create a set of actual physical cards that have topic discussions on them. They're chock full of fantastic questions, or some of them are kind of really simple true and false stuff. Some of them are discussion starters, topic starters. And the idea is you sit down with the cards on the couch or whatever with your kids, and you go through them and you sit and you have actually real conversation, in real life, IRL. But kind of right out of the gate, we asked him sort of what's the origin story of the cards? And he got just right into some really good stuff, really insightful stuff, great reminders about the importance of having a strong foundation around conversation with your kids. So I'm going to leave it there. Let's just jump in to our first clip, which is from episode 122, Building Trust Around Screens and Social Media with Soren Paulson.
How did you and your wife come together and happen to invent this idea?
Yeah, when our daughter, she was 10 and she said she was starting to show some interest in a device and a phone. Mm. But my wife said, what are we going to do? This seems crazy to just hand her over a device like that. And we felt a bit like giving the keys to a car without actually giving any driving lessons, Mm. So she set about just studying everything she could and reached out to all the professors and experts on the topic and came up with these homemade little handwritten cards. And we felt really good, and we felt that she was really prepared. We could see the way she replied, the way she answered, and just the general discussions we had, that we felt much better when she finally got her phone. And it was very shortly after that we said, this is too good. We need to let other people in on this. This is fantastic. So we decided to try and do it more seriously. And again, my wife primarily was working with a lot of experts to figure out what should we put on these cards. How should we do it? Because we didn't want it to be a lesson. And we didn't want it to be, listen, here is daddy telling you everything you need to know. And so we eventually turned it into this product that you have. And in doing so, and long before, we also, well, why isn't it just happening in schools? But all the research that we came across and the people we talked to were very adamant about one thing, which is the most important thing is the relationship between the child and the parent. it's that relationship and that trust that can be built between a child and a parent that makes them come back if something goes wrong, that makes them have a better balance in their life around screen time and so on.
What do you got? I'm out of coffee, by the way, so we got to figure.
I ran out of coffee too.
I might actually just perish during the recording of this.
Well, my first selection, this moment of profundity, comes from Kelly Jean-Philippe. Now, Kelly is a husband. He's a dad to a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and he's a chaplain at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He's also the host of the podcast, The Miscarriage Dads. And Kelly and his partner have had 5 miscarriages on the journey to having their 2 healthy kids. And we had this amazing conversation where he shared, so candidly his story. And actually, the episode is one that is award-winning. We submitted it to the Signal Awards and won a category award for family and child raising for this episode. So I highly suggest that listeners check it out. But in this moment of profundity, as we're calling it,
word again.
Kelly Jean-Philippe is talking about the husband or the male partner's role in creating a new life. And it really kind of encapsulates the spirit of the whole conversation about his role in grieving the loss of a miscarriage, and how so often in the process of dealing with a miscarriage, both the medical part of it and the emotional part of it, the male is sort of left out, and nobody's trying to take any attention or support or care or love away or empathy away from a woman's role in that process. I mean, it's devastating. But Kelly's work is trying to shine a light on men in that process and to try to advocate for getting them more support in that grief process. So with that, I will share this short segment from episode 118, where Kelly Jean-Philippe speaks about men's role in the process of miscarriage.
I think where this whole conversation derails, which happens to be, in my opinion, where the conversation begins, or at least the paradigm that frames the conversation, is that if the father says he is also in need of the same things that are available for the mom, how could he need those things? His body was not the one who carried life in it, right? So he didn't have that physiological connection to this life. The emotional connection that the mom has on top of the physical connection, like that's a thing. And she's expected to have that physical connection. So to say that as a father, as a man, I also have an emotional connection to my child. And then because of that law saying, hey, I am in need of support too. It's almost like saying, well, your experience is not the same as hers, so why would you need that support? Right. And I think that's where the whole thing just falls apart from the gate. If we get to a point of realizing that this man is as responsible for this life as this woman is, and to not punish the man for life, biology, the creator, the Big Bang, whatever you subscribe to say that the woman is the carrier of life and the man is not, right? Like, don't punish the man for that, but acknowledge that the experiences are different, but it doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the other. It's such a big miss that the man who she's going to go home with is so under-equipped that he is now going to become not an asset, but most likely a liability to her recovery, right? And to her support. So why not support him as well?
Let's keep this train rolling. What do you say?
Yeah, bro. What you got?
I picked a clip from episode 119, which was our episode with Chris Robbins, who is, among other things, the husband of Mel Robbins, who I think everyone knows, probably. But you asked a good question in this episode about their kids following in their footsteps. We listened to the whole episode because we talk a lot about, and Chris talks a lot about like his career and the things that he has done throughout his pretty like varied career. And Mel also has quite a career. And so obviously we're talking about their kids, and they're a little older now, in their 20s, I believe, all of them. And you asked a question about them following in their footsteps. And like many of his responses, he doesn't just answer the question. He had this sort of way of talking. And actually, one of the things that really stuck out to me was he would really think and pause before responding sometimes. Remember that? Almost to the point of like,
where it's uncomfortable and you want to interject.
Silent. Yeah. No, but I love that about him, is because it's just, he's thinking. He's really thoughtful is my point. But so his answer kind of went right into like deeper territory, and gave some really great insight into what it's like, raising children with eventually the idea of like sending them off into the real world. And he talked about how so much of parenting is just trying to make sure you're feeling like doing a good job, and building like some guardrails that sort of help to keep your kids safe, and help to sort of guide your children. Let's just jump right into it, because I think he just says a lot of really great stuff. So this is a clip from episode 119 with Chris Robbins, which was called Breaking the Cycle, Filling the Void.
Where do you stand on, encouraging them to either go like totally pursue their own thing, or giving them the option or the opportunity to kind of be part of this family thing that we're building together?
I think it is a tendency of parenting to at least want to feel like you're doing a good job of putting up the guardrails that might prevent bad accidents. But I only know what I know, which is that hitting those guardrails early and often, or at velocity, are where, there's all the pain and the growth. And it's freaking inevitable that, the way we move through life, to avoid those things. And you can't get around the psychological, the emotional, the mental roadblocks that come with growing up. Like there's no short route to being your age or my age. Or just isn't. Like the only way, whatever they say, is through. And I hope they will, push their own envelope. Like even the fact that the next generation or their generation is like, they're negotiating hours of working days or number of days, just like they would a salary, because they recognize the importance of like capturing their own time. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. But I think that in the case of this generation, like their bigger challenge is the fact that the phone isn't attached to the wall with a cord.
All right, here we go. This clip, and I feel like listeners are going to start being like, shut up about this episode. But this is from our chat with Nick Hexum. Nick, of course, is the lead singer of the band 311. And you and I had this kind of magical day in the summertime where we got to hang out with him for quite a length of time. And then we recorded the rest of our episode outside in person, sipping a beverage together.
Yeah. Good times.
But in our chat with Nick, one of the things he talked about is connecting with his daughters in a way that encourages them to emotionally open up to him. And his way of doing that comes back to really being vulnerable with them So I'm just going to go ahead and throw to this clip of us in person with Nick Hexum of 311 from episode 130.
I had shared about how I was seeing some darkness and some real maybe self-loathing, some darkness in the eyes of one of my kids, and really trying to make a safe space where I could coax that out of her, because you're only as sick as your secrets. Is a problem shared is a problem halved. So to create an environment where she could tell me what's really going on. So that's what we started writing about with Please Explain. And, I think it really worked. And what worked in the mission of getting my daughter to open up was for me to share tough stuff, for me to share about, when I got sober and I didn't know how to socialize sober, and I needed to get back on stage sober, and now I was scared. And so sharing with her about how I had to walk through some difficult things and get honest with people and get more support, because basically before that I'd been I got it. Okay, I don't got it. And so sharing that I went through that, and to help her break through that wall of not telling people what's really going on was, I don't know, one of my most proudest moments as a dad, to reach her. And I've had anxiety in the past, so I have plenty of things that I can share with her. And so I think that's a real key thing, is that if you can't just put yourself on a pedestal to pretend well, I never did that, because then kids feel shame. If you say, I've been right where you are, then they're going to feel comfortable, and it's like a safe place to open up.
My last one comes from episode 131.
Okay.
Your conversation with Kirk Martin, who, among other things, is the host of the Calm Parenting podcast.
I've heard of it.
Which is a very well-known podcast, I think. A lot of people probably listen to it. And if you don't, listener, I encourage you to. I think I'm just going to keep this one kind of short, because I think I could go on for a while talking about this episode. As I mentioned earlier, to me, it feels like he's talking directly to me. So much of what he has to say, I feel like, is applicable to my life as a parent, my situation with my kids. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, or I found to be profound, was when he got into discussing sort of this epiphany that he had at one point with his son, Casey, when he was younger, where he realized that he was talking to him in a way that was not healthy. And it was pushing Casey further away from him and closing him down. And he realized, I would never talk to my colleagues at work this way. And so he started to change the way that he talked to his son. And I found it very interesting to hear him talk about the success that he had with that. It went from a much more of I'm talking at you kind of thing to having discussions and being able to openly communicate around solving problems, etc. So I think we should just get right into it. This is from your discussion with Kirk Martin, episode 131, Finding Calm in the Parenting Chaos.
I just dug down and I was like, okay, I have to change myself. What can I start doing? And one day I remember I had this thought. Everything that I'm doing now isn't working. I'm getting the exact opposite result. I rush my son, he goes more slowly. I come in and start yelling, he resists more. So I thought, well, I'll just do for the next week the opposite of what I would normally do. So I began walking into a room, and instead of standing there kind of big guy energy, I just sit. Instead of yelling, I began asking questions. I began talking to Casey in many ways like I would talk to colleagues at work. because this is what I love for men is you don't have to learn like therapy language, right? You don't have to do it how your wife does it. Like at work, Adam, if something at the office is going wrong, we don't walk around, sales are down, I'm going to have to fire everybody. Like nobody, and if you have a colleague or an employee who's messing up, you probably call them into your office and say, hey, I've seen your work before. It's really good. But this last project, not up to expectations. Hey, let's go for a walk and let's talk about this and problem solve. But then we walk into our home and there are Legos on the floor and we're like, who left the Legos on the floor? I can't handle disorder. And little things set us off. So it was weird. I began just treating Casey like he was a colleague at work in a sense, right? Like he didn't have the same power. He didn't get to choose what time he went to bed, But I began talking to him saying, hey, Case, I noticed you were just yelling at mom and I'm curious what was going on that would lead you to yell at mom because you just lose your privileges when you do things like that. So what's going on? And when I started talking to him like that, he'd be like, Dad, I had a bad day at school and then I came home and mom wanted to do homework right away and I didn't want to do, and I was like, okay, I get that. You're frustrated. Mom's trying to help you out. So how do we problem solve this? And so I actually began problem solving with him. And I was like, well, that works because Adam, nobody in the way I was raised, discipline was just punishment. Your child doesn't do what you want. You send them to their room, they lose their screens, no play date, right? And then that's it. And I realized there's no teaching going on. I'm just letting them know you can't do that, but your kids already know they can't do that. That's why they lie, right? Because it's you told me not to do that. I did it anyway. I broke the lamp. We weren't supposed to play with a ball in the basement. We broke the lamp. Hey, who broke the lamp? She did, right? I have no idea. Well, kids lie because they know what they did was wrong. What they're looking for is an adult to come in and say, all right, with that example of okay, so you're a kid. You need to do some mischievous things. You need to push the limits. You've got a lot of energy. Well, how can we do that in a way that you don't break lamps in the basement? Mm-hmm. So it moved to this problem solving mode. And then it was just so much easier because I was like, I'm good at solving problems. I'm not good at disciplining because that just means I'm going to yell at my kid and then my wife's going to be mad at me because I yelled too much. And I was like, what do you want from me? Right? You said you need my help. And she's like, not that kind of help. You make it worse. So anyway, it began to become more simple and I don't want it to be hard. I think for guys in some ways we have an advantage because this even matter-of-fact tone that we use in the real world with other guys and at work is really effective with strong-willed kids. Even matter-of-fact tone, all business, it de-escalates really well.
My last clip, my last moment of profundity. This is from a super special episode for me where I interviewed my own dad. This was back on Father's Day. This was episode 124. My dad is now coming up on 84 years old, very sharp. And we had this amazing conversation about him and my mother raising my older siblings who were born in the mid 60s and then raising me 20 years later in the early 80s. And my dad is sort of reflecting on how that was different for him as a father.
Well, I think it's a wonderful way into our podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation you guys had. I loved it. And I yes, listen to this clip, listeners, but also just go and listen to that whole episode as well. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
It was a highlight of 2025 for me. In those early days, in the 60s, 70s, were you the only one bringing in income into the family?
Yes, I was. And until Nancy took a course in nursing.
What do you remember about your involvement as a dad?
Well, there were periods of time where I would be working nights. I'd need all the rest I could get. And that kind of put me out of the picture of associating with the family. I was always into jobs and busy with jobs. But I did. I do remember, making time to go to their ball games. I think the children got plenty of attention, mostly from Nancy because I was not in sight a lot of the times. I was tied up working, so on and so forth. But we always had a good relationship.
I was born on your 41st birthday, and she was born on my 31st birthday. So on your 41st birthday, Mom was 38, almost 39. Tell me what you remember about taking a newborn home from the hospital.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. Nancy was delighted, and I was delighted that she was so happy and that I was so happy.
So you and Mom were at a different phase of your life when I was born than when all my siblings were born. Can you think about how raising me in the 80s was different from raising my siblings, just in terms of your perspective as the father?
Yeah, I was more there as I was available and around when the older children were growing up. My father had 7 children, and my mother just catered to him as much as she catered to the children. And when she wanted quiet while he sleeps, she saw that there was quiet, and she treated him like a king. He didn't like a lot of noise. He didn't like a lot of playing. He didn't like a lot of that stuff. He just wanted to eat, get dressed, and head out to work.
"2026, man, it's going to be a great year.
It's here
on lots of fronts. I know it.
Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And I really think we should make a concerted effort to have more new episodes this year.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Yeah.
We've, it's no secret we've been working hard on Death and, the podcast, which we produce, hosted by former Modern Dadhood guest, mortician Victor M. Sweeney. Yeah. We will continue to put effort into that, but yes, more original Modern Dadhood episodes in 2026.
Are there any topics you feel like you'll want to try to tackle that we haven't yet, or ones that you'd like to tackle more? Like, for instance, I really like the topic of loneliness and isolation among men, particularly dads. I think that's a fascinating space to learn about and to ponder. And we've had some great guests and some really great discussions in that area. But yeah, are there any you that you think about?
I don't think we can ever really do enough on technology and privacy. Yeah. Teaching our kids what's real and what's not, and how to kind of identify that. I think more technology-based stuff. I also think more mental health, how we keep ourselves as dads healthy physically and mentally, and how to center ourselves and maybe eliminate some of the chaos in our lives, just so that we can be happier and more present people. Maybe we bring in some more experts to sort of teach us some techniques for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to get more, I don't know, just like doctors, therapists, researchers, people who study, research some of these things that we're talking about. I'd also love to hear from our listeners to see what thoughts they have on topics that they want to hear, so you can email us which I think would be wonderful if you did that, at hey, at moderndadhood.com. You can also go to our website and there's a form there. Like, I don't know. I'd love to hear from folks what they are interested in, what they want to hear about, what they want to hear us discuss more.
Well, while we're on that train, we should also say, listen, you can find Modern Dadhood on all the social media platforms. Links are in our episode notes. Mentioned at the top, but on our website, there's a store if you'd like to buy a t-shirt or a dad hoodie. We would love it if you gave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But most importantly, text this episode to a friend. Turn them on to Modern Dadhood. Let them know that you find some value in this show because they're going to trust your recommendation.
They will. Yes.
Thanks to all of our guests from 2025. We had a great batch of episodes, some amazing conversations. Marc, thank you for being my co-conspirator in this endeavor.
Thank you for being a good friend. First and foremost,
say that just because I did.
First and foremost, thanks for being a good friend.
Hey, thanks you for being a good friend.
Okay, all right. Let's not get carried away here. All right?
Okay.
I appreciate you, and let's just leave it at that.
Well, thanks to Casper Babypants and Spencer Albee for the music in our podcast.
It's great. It's great music.
Thanks to you, listeners, for sticking with us.
Oh, man. Big thanks. Okay, without thinking, what guest? Because you're going to manifest this.
Carlos Mencia.
Don't say Carlos.
Ryan Reynolds.
Wow. Another absolute stunner of a human.
How about you?
Paul Rudd.
Oh my God. I don't care about Ryan Reynolds, but if we could get Paul Rudd on this podcast, man, I would be a happy boy. We already here's the weird thing. We already thanked the listeners for listening.
Yeah. So we can.
So you're going to still close it out the way you always do?
Maybe I'll say a different sentence. But I'll say it in the same. I'll try to say it the same timing and with the same gravity. Paul Rudd, come on the show.
Podcast. This is modern.